Welcome to Technology and Education. Today I'm Richard Smith.
And I'm Caroline Crawford.
And today we're talking about multitasking in the classroom, a situation where a professor is delivering a lecture or conducting a lesson, and students are surfing the web, working on sending messages or posting to Facebook and doing all sorts of other social media things. And the comments on the part of the students is, or the general idea is, that they can multitask and also pay attention to what the professor is saying.
Looking at it from a cognitive standpoint, I find that very difficult to believe. You can only focus on one thing at a time. You do have peripheral aspects that may support your efforts, but if you're engaging with the material, why are you sitting in class if you're doing all this other junk anyway?
Well, that's a philosophical question, and that's the question that I would bring up. And interestingly enough, there has just been a study to come out.
Somehow there's osmosis going on. As long as I'm there, I'm going to learn something. That's actually how I worked through my undergrad. It didn't work well. It didn't work well at all.
Yeah, well, a study has just been done at Michigan State University where they looked at, I think it was like 500 students who were evaluated in terms of how they did in test scores in their classes, and they were separated into two separate groups based on their ACT scores. You know, those are entrance scores similar to the serve the same function as the SATs. And so there was a high group, high performing according to the ACT scores, and
high test score,
high test scores, and then some others who were not
bell
as
curve.
high. Yeah.
You're looking at the bell curve range.
Right. And it turned out that indeed those students who were at the had the lower ACT scores and who were paying attention to social media during class did have lower test scores. But interestingly enough, students with higher ACT scores also had lower test scores in the class, which indicates that you are correct. you can't really multitask.
I have to state that it's nice to have support for an understanding related to this, but this is kind of a does study. Pay attention, and you might learn something. Heard that growing up?
Well, I don't know if it's a does study. I don't think it's a does study. I think it's one of these things where people take it for granted that they are right because their gut tells them that they are right, and they say, well, of course I can multitask and pay attention to the teacher, whether it's a high school or a college. In this instance, it was a college, and learn just as well. It's the same.
Well, but there's also, and just to skew a little bit, it's a differentiation from K-12 and adult learning university level. At the university level, these people are paying for the privilege to attend the class. Mm-hmm. So from an instructional point of view, if you're going to sit there and play on your social media and play games all day and not really pay attention, I don't care. Your grade is going to reflect your efforts. And although I would like to see you do well, this is your choice.
Well, I'll tell you what, and this is a little bit off the topic.
I shouldn't say I don't care, because I do care, but
as far as I'm concerned, when you have a situation like that, let's say you have a class of 25, 30 or more students, and the students are on social media, let's say 30-40% of them are on the computer doing something unrelated to the class, it is distracting. You've got to hear the clicking of the keyboard. You've got to see them staring into their computers rather than looking at you as the instructor of that class.
And that's a fair statement. Absolutely.
And I think so.
If you're distracting other learners who are trying to pay attention, then that's an issue.
And that's a courtesy issue. It's you're not being courteous to your professor. You're not being courteous to the other students in your class who are not on social media and who, at the college level, are paying money to attend that class
and want to get something.
Else. Yes. Interestingly enough, at the elementary school level, when I read papers that my students have written, who are getting master's degrees, they will say things like, I allow my students to listen to music off their iPods, or I'll play music in the background
what kind
while
of music?
they're working.
Popular music, or like Mozart that supposedly engages the cognitive facilities?
Whatever the music is, to me that seems to be it's going to be a distraction. It's another multitasking sort of thing, which feels good. You feel that, well, if the students are listening to music and they're working on their assignments, surely they must be paying better attention and learning better. But as it turns out, as at least what this study is indicating, that may not be true.
Multitasking is not a good idea.
It's like people who say, well, I can drive and I can
watch
text.
television and work on my coursework
Oh, sure.
and deal with whomever is texting me at the moment. I don't know about anybody else, but I can't do that. And I assume that other people are somewhere at the same level as me. I'm not very bright. I'm not that stupid. Somewhere in the median middle. No commentary is necessary on that statement.
Driving while texting. I mean, everybody has seen this. Or driving while you have a cell phone in your hand. You're going along. Well, in Houston, you're going along at 70, 75 miles an hour. All of a sudden, there's a car in front of you going 50 or 55 miles an hour. Drive past that person. Look at him.
The darn fool in the fast lane who's actually supposed to be going 60, 65 miles an hour, but they're on their phone, so they're not really paying attention.
Right, well, energy is going
and swerving. I love the ones that swerve.
Energy is going into that phone call, so they lose attention to what their prime mission is, which is to drive on that road safely and get from place A to place B. But I think
without killing somebody else.
Right, but that's just another indication where people are multitasking. If you ask that person would say,
"Sure, I can do it. I'm making social calls. I need to call these people." Then call them on your time, not when I'm on the road with you.
They'll tell you, "Oh, I drive extra carefully when I'm driving and talking on the phone." But
I'd like to meet those people because I haven't seen them.
It's just another indication of the idea that in general multitasking is held to be as a good thing, but
within our culture it's considered
right.
a good thing. It's a flawed understanding and perception of the way people understand information.
But remember when you said that this study is
it's
really
kind of a duh study.
A duh study. Well, maybe not. It's not really a duh study, and I think there was more to the study than just seeing whether multitasking was going to be a distraction or not. This study, when you go into it, had to do with detailing how information is processed in the brain and competing information, how that either enhances or distracts how people learn in general. But I think what we can come out with this study and other information similar to it is that multitasking is, at least at the academic level in class, is not really a good thing.
Well, and to enhance that discussion a little bit, if it's not appropriate when you're trying to obtain knowledge and work with knowledge at different levels of understanding, why would it be acceptable out in the real world when you are trying to learn something or taking care of driving skills and not killing somebody on the way from point A to point B?
Or you get your first job and you sit there doing your first meeting on your cell phone, texting your friends. Gotta think about that. Well, anyway, we've reached the end of yet another edition of Technology and Education Today.
Interesting discussion, Richard.
Yes, for Technology and Education Today, I'm Richard Smith.
And I'm Caroline Crawford. Bye!